was against Unsold Stuff Gaming. They were taken down by Pentagram 0-3 after having an undefeated split in split number 1. That is why we did not see this team at MSI this time around. They were able to come back through the gauntlet, beat USG 3-1. However, the only time we have seen them internationally is Rift Rivals. Don't want to harp on the tournament too much, but they struggled against the Oceanic teams and they excelled versus the Southeast Asian teams. And I think the reason for that is if you fight fire with fire, if you play an early game, Detonation Focus Me are one of the quicker LJL teams, and they will try and punish it, whereas if you play slow, composed, you can win team fights against this team. That's what Oceania did very well.
KaBuM going up against Detonation Focus Me here. Lost their first game of the day.
Yep.
Really want to find the win
Got
here.
smacked.
Starting off 0-2 in a 4-game system is very rough.
Yeah, it means you can only come 2-2. Means that you're, at best, fishing for a tiebreaker.
Yeah, at best, you're even. Yep. Which is not a situation anybody wants to find themselves in. Remember that KaBuM, the last time we saw them at MSI earlier this year, they went a grand total of 4-2. There were more games to play during that group stage, but both those losses were on day 1. And that could be indicative that for this team, they have to get their feet wet a little bit, have to adapt to the new situation, new meta, new patch, new everything. But they really need to find their footing here in this one. Bans have already gone through. It's for Khan, Pyke, and Aatrox on Detonation Focus Me. KaBuM deciding they want to get rid of the Urgot, the Camille, and that Heimerdinger. No sir, no thank you. Not wanting to deal with that one as Detonation Focus Me grabbed the Varus for their 80 carry.
Yeah, a little bit strange coming out of Detonation Focus Me, banning the aggressive supports, given the fact that Riyev does have a propensity to play a little bit more of Protect Cheetan. Maybe they don't want some aggression down there in Yutapon's lane. They want him to be able to scale up. Yutapon, a journeyman of the scene, 2014, first time I saw him at IWCI, has played top lane, has played AD carry for this lineup, and even though they tried to get rid of some aggression from Captain Flowers, I think that we're going to get some anyway.
Well, the Thresh has been picked up for KaBuM, so they want some playmaking capability on that one, as well as the ability to save people if they get in trouble. And the Tristana will be locked in against that Varus.
Yeah, interesting matchup, because Tristana obviously scales to have one of the longest attack ranges in the game with that draw a bead passive. However, has a really crappy attack range at the start of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that, this is one of those lanes that can potentially be punished by something like a Varus, who does have very nice trading patterns at the start of the game.
Well, the pickup for the support role on Detonation Focus Me is the Tahm Kench to make sure that, hey, Varus is vulnerable. One of the weaknesses of the champion, you've got no mobility, you've got no way to get out. Tahm Kench provides that. They're also going to grab the Kindred there for themselves in the jungle, which will be answered by a Taliyah jungle from KaBuM.
Yeah, and I mean, a little bit more spicy now, a little bit more fire with fire. Kindred, one of Steel's big pickups in the jungler. And Taliyah going to come through for Ranger, also one of the champions that he likes to play. So this is a little bit more of what we expected to see. Utility bottom lane coming out for Detonation Focus Me. They're going to be playing around Evi. They're going to be playing around Ceros. They like to push waves. They like to invade. And Ranger now does have some tools to keep them out.
And in game number 1 that we saw KaBuM, I complimented their pick and ban because I said I like seeing them adapt to the way Cloud9 plays, banning out the Galio once they saw Blabber on something that was aggressive like the Xin Zhao. This time around, they banned the Heimerdinger in the first round of the bans. They're banning the Ziggs in the second round. Those are the 2 most played champions on the side of Detonation Focus Me in the mid lane, taking those out, removing those from the pool, preventing that surprise element. I really like the way they're approaching this. LeBlanc, the ban from Detonation, as KaBuM will get rid of Gnar as well.
Yeah, they're obviously very prepared for what Kazu is going to put together for DFM, because Camille is certainly Evi's best champion. You'll probably follow that up with something a little bit more aggressive, like the Gnar. Already, Aatrox was taken off the board by Detonation Focus Me, not willing to first pick that one. So I think that in this pick ban, they very much have squished Evi's champion pool, and we are looking for him to be the primary carry. Zantins, a rough first game of the day, now not going to be up against one of those tier 1 aggressive top laners.
Yeah, the Gnar and the Camille, the 2 most played picks for Evi. The Heimerdinger and the Ziggs, I already said, the 2 most played picks for Ceros. Getting rid of those is very good drafting, in my opinion. You've got the Syndra now locked in on the side of KaBuM. They're going to put DyNquedo on that one. Does have more pick potential, more playmaking potential than a Victor, who kind of has to have people get stuck in his gravity field. And it looks like DetonatioN Focus Me are saying, all right, take out our mid laners, 2 most played champions. We're going to hit you with number 3, the Karma, locked in.
Yeah, interesting that he went for the Karma and not the Zilean, because Zilean is one of Ceros's all-time most played champions. Historically was playing that before it was cool as well. However, Karma still does a similar thing, still going to have good priority, still going to be allowing Steel to pressure Outranger in that jungle position. And they kind of flip the switch. Just go towards a tank top laner in the Ornn. This is not something that we're used to seeing out of DFM. Be interested to see how Evi approaches his matchup.
Zantins was thinking about the Darius there for a second, now going over towards the Scion, from Tank Buster to Tank themselves. You can tell they were thinking about that lane matchup, saying, oh, Darius got buffed recently, he's pretty strong now, he can really just completely bully tanks.
Yep.
But at the same time, they don't have much of a front line themselves, they decide to go for the Scion instead.
Yeah, they just didn't have an easy way to start up the fight. We saw last game from Edward that if the Thresh isn't on point, isn't all that much of an engaged tool, does have to be relegated more towards Flays, Boxes, and Lanterns. So, you know, hopefully Riyev able to play a little bit more further up in this lane, a little bit more aggressive. But Sion just barreling down a lane, you know, potentially as well with Taliyah cutting off any form of retreat, is a much more reliable way to start up a team fight than throwing hooks at people.
Yeah, sometimes the hooks don't always find their mark, but as we're loading into Summoner's Rift, and as you can see the players on your screen right now, I think once again it's important to point out there is an advantage here for KaBuM in the fact that they've already got their first game under their belt. If you had like the stage jitters or you were just a little bit worried about, oh man, first game of Worlds, oh my gosh, that is at least passed a little bit.
See, people say that. Sometimes it gets worse.
It could get worse, considering the fact that they did get slammed in the first game. You can have that worry, but it's a different worry now. On the side of DetonatioN Focus Me, remember, this is this team's first Worlds appearance. For 4 of these players, this is your first Worlds. Evi came with Rampage in 2017, but for the rest of these guys, it's once again that fishbowl effect. Hey, we're the ones in the bowl, all eyes on us. Step up or go home.
Yeah, and a little bit of a different lineup for Evi. You know, he had Dara and Tussle, the 2 Koreans coming over with him on that Rampage lineup, and those guys were absolute monsters. Remember watching them play against Levi in the Rift Rivals, and they were just able to completely shut down the jungle aggression and allow Evi to do his thing. This game, Evi not going to be on that hard carry, going to be on a tank, going to be a facilitator. So interested to see how Steel, how Yutapon, the 2 carries in the Kindred and the Varus, are able to attack the KaBuM lineup because they need to be able to get this game rolling.
As we start things off with a nice sepia tone of a pause, we'll take a brief moment to assess the situation. I'll update you guys whenever we figure out what's going on, see if we get an ETA on when we'll get back into Summoner's Rift. But DetonatioN Focus Me would love to start things off here with a win today. Again, this is this team's first time showing up on the world stage. Previously, at Worlds at MSI, the LJL has not had the greatest showing, the most convincing of performances during their play-ins appearances, but that was with a different team. Again, as I already said, for 4 of these players, this is your first Worlds, so this is your chance to say, hey, we're sending the right team this time, and we're here to make a statement.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that, you know, outside of best of 5s, this is a team that has been very successful. So in this best of 1, they should be very comfortable. They win a lot of their first games. As I said, their overall split record was something ridiculous, like 16-3 split 1, and then like 19-2 split 2. Like, they just don't drop many maps domestically. They finish the game very quickly. They have a high first blood, high first turret rate, like everything you kind of want out of a team, they have. But you have to stress, is that domestic dominance or is that actually, you know, a world-class team? Because so far what the LJL region has shown is that it stops at domestic dominance and not able to translate it into that next step.
And that's, at least for me, one of the most fun parts about Worlds, about this massive collision of all these different regions coming together, is you get to see who's not just dominant among those teams in their own league, but whose style prevails over everyone else as well. And for the LJL, that's what you want to show off here, as the game pause is caused due to a mouse issue. They're working on fixing that right now. I don't have an ETA yet of exactly how long it's going to take, but hopefully it won't be too long. DetonatioN Focus Me and KaBuM wanting to get into this game, and we talked about the nerves. We talked about the effect of being on a big stage like this, and I've had discussions with players before. Specifically, I talked to Medios about this when he was here earlier this season for some of the analyst desk appearances he did for the North American LCS, and he talked about how these pauses for players can be very jarring. They can take you out of that mental state of focus that you want to be in, and being able to adapt to that as well, just another thing that can separate you from having a good game or a bad game.
Yeah, shout out to my co-caster Ejim. He always said the easiest pauses to go through were the pauses at the start of the game, because all you're saying is, okay, early game plan is this. The hardest pauses, in his opinion, were the extended mid-game pauses, where you're sitting there going, who has flash? What were we doing? Like, how strong am I? I haven't hit someone in a while. Like, how much damage do I do? And you really have to go through the reset process. So I think at the start of the game, these guys are just going to start trying to, you know, stay calm, stay cool, go through some breathing exercises, look to just reiterate as soon as they get out of this pause, okay, you know, Kazu and Hero left us on stage with these game plans to play out the first 5 minutes. You know, we want to be passive in the Tahm Kench lane. On the flip side, the Thresh Tristana lane, probably looking for some money hops at level 2, trying to get on the top of some people's heads and try and take down this lane. So I think that as long as they stay to that course, as long as they reiterate the game plan, should not be that big of a deal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the Summoner's Rift. The pause has dissipated. The situation has been fixed, and it looks like we are ready to go here for Game 3 of the day. Detonation Focus Me from the LJL of Japan going up against KaBuM from the CB LoL. We'll see if KaBuM can finish the day 1-1, or if they will start off 0-2. A rough first game against Cloud9 means they're going to need a strong mental game here to just put that one on the back burner. That doesn't matter anymore. That's the past. Time to jump into the present, see what they can do here up against Detonation Focus Me. And it doesn't seem like either team is looking to do anything too nutty at level 1.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. As we keep mentioning, you know, pressure, pause, all of a sudden you don't want to be on the back foot from level 1, whilst Cyan as well as Taliyah have a very good level 1. You know, they're just going to play this one out nice and slowly. Want to track Ceros' build, because you've got 2 80 carries, so you would expect this guy to probably go Athene's into maybe an Ardent Sense or something like that, then a Death Cap to just boost up the shields. As actually, we're going to get a topside invade. We already mentioned the strength of this level 1, so potentially going to look for it.
Late invade. They want to wait until their opponents have already started the buff and use some skills and then show up. Zantins and Ranger versus Evi and Steel. It's going to be a smite fight for this. Whoever takes it, it will be big and important, and it's going to be secured by Ranger. Good job there from Zantins, making sure he moves forward. Decimating Smash to keep the enemy jungler away.
Yeah, and the big things there was that Evi didn't want to lose out on experience, so he left very early. Zantins, on the other hand, had access to just be able to walk back up through River. He could stick around for a very long time. Level 2 gang coming in.
Ranger saying, all right, let's see if we can find the seismic shove. Ceros doing a good job, keeping cool, sidestepping that one, but still ends up eating the Scat of the Week. And that means it's time to chug some potions for him. Good early pressure there from Ranger.
Yeah, it certainly is. Heal being picked up for Ceros. You know, this is a very defensive lane. What I was going to mention on the back end of the itemization talk is that Ceros is someone that does generally just build full AP Karma at times as well. That's a very nice Scuttle Crab steal taken by Ranger. Going to deny the mark.
That was very close, too. Steal was half a second away from being able to fire off an auto attack that would steal that one. His bottom side. All right, it's not going to turn into much. The lasso from Riyev will not turn into a play. They don't want to go in like that. Riyev has taken a little bit of damage compared to his opponent, says both junglers now looking for that top side Scuttle Crab. Steel's the one starting things off, but remember, he can't break the armor NMR on the thing. He doesn't have a hard CC to do that, and so this has to be yielded to KaBuM.
Yeah, and I was actually wrong. That was the mark that I saw pop up over Ranger, so that's the Scuttle Crab mark right there. That's going to be taken away as well, so just saw into the future a little bit, but getting double Scuttle Crab as a Kindred, someone that has very good dueling potential, especially when you have a red buff and Ranger does not, just because of your lanes rotating continuously, has to be a frustrating early game for Steel. And, you know, we already said on the analyst desk that we want to see more for Ranger. Well, I think so far, this has been a very successful early game out of the Taliyah.
Right, going up against Cloud9, we said we were surprised, like, wow, the Olaf's falling behind in farm to the Xin Zhao. He's not exactly finding that early pressure that he wanted. But Ranger's having a great time so far in this game. Of course, we're only 4 minutes in. We'll see if he can keep that up as time goes on. Bottom side, Cheetan versus Yutapon. It was Cheetan who did manage to find some aggression in the bottom lane versus Cloud9. It got punished, like they talked about on the desk, eating the turret shots, trying to set up a play that was a dive onto Sneaky after winning the early laning phase.
Yep.
He did get a lot of free firing time onto the turret now, and I want to see if they can better temper that steel that is this weapon in the bot lane and see if they can find some success with him going up against DFM. As now Ranger once again looking to make the move here in the mid lane. Doesn't get close enough to use the seismic shove to force out a flash, but Ceros is very low on mana.
And Ceros is just very aware of the fact that, you know, his Kindred set behind. There's no control coming out of this jungle situation right now, so he has to play on the back foot. You know, there's no way he can step up to that wave. I also like the adaptation in draft that's come through out of KaBuM. You know, they did have the lane bully lane in game number 1. This time around, they at least have some late game insurance. You know, you got yourself that hyper carry in the Tristana, so certainly no pressure to make the early game, you know, the be-all and end-all. Still have some kill potential, so they can still play aggressive, but, you know, there's other ways for Cheetan to be able to take over this game.
Man on your screen right now, Zantins. Remember, he struggled against Licorice.
Oh, jumps in.
Against Cloud9, but Steel's gonna be in some trouble now. Cheetan with that aggro, looking to go in, start this fight off. Can they get themselves away?
Ooh.
Detonation focus me now, looking to turn this one right back around. Riyev gets taken down for first blood. Yutapon looking to find even more, maybe now. Cheetan trying to get the damage down onto him as Ranger also finds those threaded volleys. Gets himself back over the wall, trying to stay alive now. Steel's in some trouble, gonna be seismic shoved back the other way. And Ranger gets the kill, 1-for-1.
That was so close coming out of Steel. You could see, he could see the double kill right there, but it is not to be. Back and forward. MVP of that fight was Yutapon. He marched into 3 members and got his man. Teleport's gonna be burnt into this bottom lane.
That was so close from Steel. My goodness, man. Ceros sidestepping away from some orbs here in the mid lane. We'll have to get the replay of that one here in just a moment, but these teams have come to party at Worlds 2018. Nobody's willing to sit on the back foot.
And once again, you know, this is going to start hurting Steel because Ranger is going to one more time come to his mark. You can see finally he's got Evi coming down to help, so potentially this could be the first mark that they're able to pick up for their jungler, but they're just pressuring him so well at this stage of the game.
Is not willing to yield this either. DyNquedo's gonna take Ceros very, very low. Seismic shove comes through. Ceros has to flash over the wall, but it's not gonna be in time to prevent any damage. And that means further Scuttle Crab area control will be exercised now by KaBuM. Zantins wants to walk up into the brush, make sure they're not gonna try to contest this one, steal it away with a cheeky smite. Seismic shove to break the armor. Threaded volley comes through, fit by Mr. Crab.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have any priority in the mid lane. He's in base right now with no summoner spells. Let's take another look at this one. This is what I meant, that when you're playing the Thresh, you're playing the Tristana, every now and again you just want to jump on people. Well, Cheetan took that one a little bit too literally for me. You know, positioning very far away from the rest of the fight. You can see no auto attacks coming through. This is where Varus' superior range was just dominant. He starts marching forward, you know. Everyone else looks like they just want to get out of the fight. Yutapon nearly wins this one 1v2. Steel, he saw it. Like, he saw it in his face. He's like, this is the double kill. This is the way back into the game. And unfortunately, that's not what actually happened.
No, that's not exactly the way he imagined it in his head. But KaBuM is now dreaming of red buffs as the second round of the buff rotations come up. It's Ranger in the enemy jungle, stealing that one away, has the smite to make sure he gets it and gets out. Walking right back over his control ward as he exits towards that northern exit.
Really surprised he actually didn't check the Raptor camp there, because they have so much priority in bottom in mid lane that, you know, potentially could have looked to continually stick the screws in to Steel right now, who's gone back to Krugs. You know, maybe even expected that is what happened on the back of his red buff camp being taken away. So really now they have to start playing around the CC lanes of Evi, of Yutapon. You know, Ceros set behind, not going to be all that successful, and it is going to be the support Karma build coming out. So certainly a hole in the middle of the map through jungle right now that Detonation Focus Me need to take into account every time they look to 2v2.
Ultimate's coming online here in the bottom lane, as you can see those level 6s coming up. DyNquedo taking the damage from that empowered inner flame from the Karma, as it will be the 2 versus 2 bottom side. Vivid going to be eating the damage there at the start. Cheeton ends up getting caught out by the Chains of Corruption. Health bar's injured on the side of KaBuM, but TP is going to be used by both sides. It will be KaBuM getting there first. Zantins looking to find the damage. The cavalry has arrived. Here comes the Ornn, still looking to make even more happen. Ranger shows up, seismic shove onto the enemy AD carry. Riyev getting himself back. Zantins also going to be taken low here. KaBuM can't really find anything, neither can DetonatioN, and both sides decide to back away.
And look how evenly the damage is spread across KaBuM. They kind of just hit whoever was in front of them. DetonatioN focused me, not able to pick anything up. But a very nice rotation coming out. You know, looked like DFM was going to be first to that play after the teleports had completed. However, Ranger there with the ultimate. The movement out of dyNquedo to come down the river. That's what you want to see at this stage of the game out of KaBuM, and they maintain their gold lead.
That gold lead only 500 though. 10 minutes into the game. This one's seeming pretty close so far between these two squads. Ceros continuing to farm up here in the mid lane with the Karma. Practically even with his lane opponent, as it's going to be Scuttlecrab spawning on the top side here again. Ranger says, get the hell out of here, that's my crab.
It just feels bad, man, when you're a Kindred. You just can't get any marks.
Not a single one to his name. 10 minutes into the game. I'm trying to remember what the timer is that you want to hit those 4 stacks at. I asked Irene at one point. Can't quite remember where it is.
Let's just go with as fast as possible.
As fast as possible would be wonderful.
It's not happening very quickly right
But I think if you don't have it by about... Generally, the consensus, I believe, is around the mid-game when you have to start team fighting if you don't have the range increase from 4 stacks. Absolutely. It's a big feels bad, man.
Yeah, being a melee AD carry isn't fun.
A melee
you know, he's going to have the big shield coming out of Karma, going towards the Athenes, probably going to go towards the Arda. Has some good setup CC, and does have a comp that is probably going to run into him, so it's maybe not the end of the world at this stage.
Right.
But it's certainly a big bonus to be able to pick up marks. A lot of Kindred's kit is locked behind that certain mechanic.
I mean, the farm is dead even in AD carry and top. It's very close in the mid lane. Yeah, it's a 10 lead for dyNquedo, but that's nothing to write home about. The jungle is where the biggest farm difference is so far, as Ranger, who we were looking at to step up in game number 2 here for KaBuM, has done just that.
Yeah, support's pretty big farm difference.
Oh, yeah. Of course, we've got to consider Tahm Kench is just doing so much work this game, making sure he gets the farm, but...
I like this roam coming out. I mean, we've already mentioned it a little bit, but when you have yourself a Thresh and you have a Taliyah, you do want to get out of laning phase. You know, you're not going to be punished all that much by a Tahm Kench. Sure, a Flash Varus ultimate could be there as well, but that overextends Yutapon at the same time. So I really do think that, you know, splitting up the map at this stage, it's going to come down to team fight. When you got yourself, you know, a big beefy tank playmaking support on kind of both sides, and then just damage threats from everywhere else, eventually you're going to have to fight.
Ceros. Oh, he does get the root down into the inner flame. Nice job there in mid lane. And DetonatioN Focus Me is a team that normally plays heavily through their jungler. They like to make sure that they can set up those fights for him. Cheeton in some trouble, flashes away. It's flash for flash in the bottom lane. And Spawn, I would say that favors KaBuM because Tristana has ways to peel for herself. She has ways to get away. But Varus only has Tahm Kench.
Yeah, I agree, but it depends how they play the lane. Because if they play the lane with Riyev out of the lane continuously, that flash is going to be eventually a big deal because Cheeton's not going to have access to the wave to shove it out. It's going to start hitting the turret over and over again. And that can lead to things like a Dragon Take, which can get this Kindred back into the game. So I agree with you, if it was a team fighting situation, Flash more important for Varus. But at this stage of the game, I really do think Cheeton needs his Flash.
And at this stage of the game, it's Steel who will likely get himself stack number 1. Yeah, Kindred finally grabs herself a stack. 12.5 minutes into the game. Cloud Drake under the belt of DetonatioN Focus Me also means more rotational capability, more movement speed. Ranger steals away the enemy Grom. Not really a good trade for a Drake, but you get what you can. As here comes your Scion ultimate. Nice job making sure he curves it away there. Decimating Smash also looking to set up the follow-up CC there. They're going very deep on this when a KaBuM could find themselves very heavily punished. Ornn all over the wall, setting things up for Steel. Can they find any more here? Zantins tries to get himself away. Tahm Kench makes his way into the fight now as well. dyNquedo trying to fight these guys off here on the top side, but it's Vivid. One more big gobble him up, and he takes him down as Zantins tries to hobble his way out. but Lamb and Wolf together should have the damage. And Steel gets him as well. Tragedy for KaBuM.
And that was a 5v3 because they read the play so nicely and Evi outplays them, holds a flash to the last moment, baits them in. Sure, KaBuM get the first turret, but that should be traded topside. And all of a sudden, Steel is back in this game. And this was a shutout performance by Ranger at the start of it.
KaBuM they get way too excited to make that play happen. You chase a Scion. Let's take another look through this Acer Predator replay.
Yeah, and I mean, this is how it starts. So very nice, you know, 3-man rotate up, good layering of CC. But I think as soon as that flick misses, you have to pull out. So you can see teleport coming in already. They cut off the back line. There's no response coming through, no teleport channeled by Titan. They're just trying to cut their losses. And when you have a comp that just has so many globals, so much ability to get around the map, it's very well played, a great read from DetonatioN, and I think, you know, that's a punish that KaBuM wasn't necessarily expecting.
And a punish it is indeed. All the advantage you built up early on in the game will now be neutralized as the gold is dead even. KaBuM decide, hey, we made a mistake, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop the playmaking train we were going for. They grab the Rift Herald. And we'll see now if Detonation Focused Me decides to take this even game state and make any plays of their own with it.
Well, I like that Rift Herald take because, you know, they could have gone top lane, they could have tried to push down the turret, but really this game is going to be dictated by, you know, being able to push through mid lane turret and start up team fights on your terms. And I think that, you know, being able to do that is going to be a great boon for KaBuM because we've seen that they can play aggressively. They want to look for the plays. Hasn't always necessarily worked out for them, but you know, if they're able to build a gold lead through objectives, certainly something that is still on the cards.
And that's normally the plan that this team goes for on the side of Detonation Focus Me. Use early advantages, snowball objectives through them. Now, if you're just looking at kills, you would say, yes, they've got an early advantage. But of course, that's not the entire story of the game. It's KaBuM that managed to grab themselves both first turret and that Rift Herald. So we'll see how that goes for them with that objective control so far. Warrior plus Skirmisher Saber completed for Steel, getting himself back into the game with the kills from those fights. Very, very big, very important for this Kindred. Runic Echo's now also done on the Taliyah for Ranger. It's one of those games, so often in League of Legends you see junglers being melee champions. There are more ranged junglers than in the past right now, but having Kindred versus Taliyah, it's so volatile.
Yeah.
Because neither one of them is that exceptional if they fall too far behind, but if they get ahead, they're super oppressive. And we'll see if Detonation Focus Me can make this mid lane turret happen. Ornn gets sounded off.
Oh,
Second part not going to connect. Detonation Focus Me is very far forward. It's going to be Kindred ult dropped immediately. Health bars are going to be taken very low. The seismic wall comes out. They're making sure they're keeping them back. There comes the team fight. There comes the near wipe. Detonation Focus Me don't have a snowball's chance. And now they've only got one man standing. It's a 1-for-4. Make it a 1-for-5 if they can manage to pick him up here. Ceros trying to kite this one out is going to be slowed down, and Titan turns away too early. Ceros, if you get away from this, well, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way.
He's
going to go throw a Q at the wave, try and get some CS for himself, check out the scenic route that is the bottom of Summoner's Rift. That's the smallest bunny hop of all time, but eventually...
that took so much longer than I thought it would, though. That took so much longer.
Well, I mean, the big thing there is that they don't get any objectives. If you pick up an ace, which is what just happened at 17 minutes into the game, you're expecting a turret off the back end. But once again, DFM, they try and use the Tahm Kench, they try and cheat tempo. Good read coming out from KaBuM, and aggression is just being punished time and time again in this matchup. That is such a nice Taliyah roll. Cuts off Ceros' ability to get back out, means that they have to run through the choke point. And this looked like a great team fight until they chased a Karma from mid lane to bottom lane. Then it looked really sloppy.
And everything happened instantly. As soon as KaBuM collapsed, it's just like, bam. Or more appropriately, KaBuM. There you go. You punish Detonation Focus Me. Look at the damage in the fight. Compare, all right, if you dare to compare the highest one, 3.1K to 1.8, okay. 2.7 to 1.5, okay. Everybody else on the side of Detonation Focus Me, all right, I guess I got more than Thresh,
yeah,
but that's it.
That was an ugly fight. And I think that, you know, Sion is just so good at capitalizing on those opportunities. Big AoE CC coming across, and now that they have this advantage, what I'm looking for them to do is use Taliyah to sit off the play, wall off the crucial members of the Detonation Focus Me lineup, and start allowing Tristana to knock down turrets. if Chitan gets rolling, if he gets to the Infinity Edge unchecked, this should be a very easy closeout for KaBuM around objectives.
And Chitan, remember, this is the young prodigy AD carry from the CB LoL. This is the big guy, the Uzi-style player, as he was described earlier, for KaBuM. He normally does about 32% of the team's damage. He's a big damage component for them. 3-0-2 on a late-game hyper carry.
Ooh,
19 minutes in,
good
feels
one.
really good. As Vivid does a good job keeping Ceros alive there, utilizing the Devour, but now it's going to be Steel who's in some trouble, is taken very low. Lamps are Spike going to keep him alive just for a moment longer. Zantins going to be in some trouble here, trying to keep himself at least a distraction for the rest of the team. Evi's on the front line, will take some damage from that dead body Scion passive. Weaver's wall comes out, Ranger over the wall. Chitan also going to be finding the damage now, down on the Ceros, still looking to turn it right back around. Resets coming in. Is this what they need? Over the wall goes Vivid, keeping that AD carry barely alive. DyNquedo wants to follow, can't quite find the damage. Ranger still wants to chase it, needs a little bit of damage to do so. Gets the smite just like he was a minion. Vivid's going to be taken down next. DyNquedo grabs that one, and KaBuM takes out 3 from Detonation.
And finally, we see the team fighting that KaBuM has really built their season upon, but this time they didn't chase too far. They're going to be able to pick up the objectives, and things are looking very good right now for the Brazilian lineup. Detonation focused me. They're sticking with it. They are looking to respond in kind, but the item lead is just way too strong. This one starts off with a really nice stun over the wall. Ceros, walking the cheat way in. The layering of CC is great. Then just the backline access that Scion has found time and time again means that this fight was always in the favor of KaBuM. Little things like, Evi getting flicked off his ultimate, no CC gonna be there. Summoner spells not available for the mid laner, for the jungler, means that they're easy targets to pick off. But really, the start of the fight is what dictated how it was going to go.
And Vivid did a good job there trying.
That was the best job. What else can he do?
Yutapon alive. Yeah, there's not much else you can, but when Taliyah comes over the wall, rides a rock surfboard up to you, and then smites you, there's not much you can do to outplay the point and click of the
That is a high percentage play from Ranger. That is what that is.
That's
right
a very high percentage.
There is very small margin for error. If you get over the wall, you kill him. As long as you don't flash into that wall.
You could accidentally smite a minion or something.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think there was a minion there, but technically you are correct.
Either way, Ranger is an 8 out of 9 kill participation here on this Taliyah. Morellonomicon completed now, along with those Runic Echoes, along with the Mercury Treads. The inventory is blue, but the man has red in his eyes, constantly setting up these plays for his team, making everything happen, and it's provided an early game that has just been so conducive to the growth of the AD carry. 4-0-3, 2.5 items on Tristana. Damn, that's scary.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I measure Taliyah players by how good they are at combat ulting.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to be able to, catch someone out with the flick off the former CC, as actually Chitan just dives in. All right, nothing much happening there. But it is another thing to be able to take your moment and look for the wall whilst the fight is happening. It's one more time, they're starting this one up.
They sound off the Ornn horn, finding a lot of damage, and that's a big shutdown for Detonation.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I mean, one of the things that Detonation has going in their favor is how cheap their item builds are. This isn't a crit AD carry going to go towards a Gwynsu. This isn't a mage that is relying on the Luden's Echo into the Death Cap build eventually. This is just going to be the cheap supportive item. So right now, they are also strong. They also have their kit online. And being able to, pick up the big shutdown into the mid lane turret certainly means that they can look to push up waves and maybe contest the Baron.
That's the big thing for me, too. They got the turret from it. It's not just the pick, it's what did we get from the pick, and removing that, grabbing your first turret of the game, will help to staunch some of that bleeding that you were suffering from the earlier phases. You're still down 4,500 to 22 minutes. It's an uphill battle, but being able to find punishes like that is good for this squad from the LJL. Again, their first appearance for 4 of these players on the world stage, trying to open up here with a win against KaBuM, who are down in the standings 0-1 after dropping that first game to Cloud9, but are looking a lot better here in game number 2. Zantins especially had a very rough game number 1. Coming back pretty strong here in the second round. We'll see here if Yutapon can go towards that enough to do anything. Doesn't look like it. Move up for Detonation focused me. Trying to pass that one off to Ceros. No interference from KaBuM just yet. Tahm Kench fires off the tongue from the shrubbery. and it looks like KaBuM will be just fine.
Yeah, and two really nice wards down in the bottom lane now for Zantins. He knows that they're trying to collapse onto him and use the teleport of Yutapon to get back towards the Baron play, so he scouts out the two most likely avenues that Yutapon is going to look to attack that. Evi does his job, gets the push, backs into the jungle, and he's going to start trying to clear that out. But you can see that at this stage of the game, without a pick, Detonation Focus Me are going to struggle to fight 5v5.
Looks like the Ornn Horn goes off yet again, and that could be a big pick to the side of Detonation Focus Me. They grab the enemy mid laner and shut down credit over to Yutapon. Tied in kills now with the enemy Tristana.
That is twice in a row that Yutapon has been the beneficiary of the shutdown. In comes the train.
Weaver's Wall plus the Scion ulti coming in. This could be the fight. We'll see if they can find anything. Still going to be 4 versus 5. Zantins in some trouble. Going to be shredded very rapidly. Cheeton grabbing the kill onto Vivid. Ranger's alone, trying to kite himself away from Evi. Detonation Focus Me still looking to find even more. Evi continues this chase. Manages to tag Ranger with the slow. Yutapon chasing after this one. You want to give the money over to the AD carry. You can do it just like that. Yutapon getting those kills.
Time and time again, Yutapon is the beneficiary of these picks, and whilst they are still behind in gold, building up this Varus, building up, once again, a late game scaling AD carry means that with the Karma in the mid lane, it's only going to get better for Detonation Focus Me. KaBuM really just need to take that deep breath and reset up around objectives.
I'm really liking what we're seeing from Detonation Focus Me. The fact that they can find these picks and set this up is great, but for KaBuM, you've got to be aware. This has happened more than once now. You can't keep giving these up like that.
Well, when you see a Tahm Kench, you assume 1-3-1 is going to come out, because Tahm Kench, best support in the game of being able to attack a side lane, you know, be able to pick up a kill with that ultimate. However, in a team fight comp, you're like, what are you going to use it for? Well, they've coupled it very nicely with Evi's ultimate for that long-range engage, just using the slow, in fact, to keep Yutapon in range. Now potentially going to look to clear out some vision around this Baron. I've really liked Vivid's game, actually.
Yeah.
I think that he has performed very well. On the flip side, you know, you got to applaud Ranger, you got to applaud Zantins for how they've facilitated Cheetan's carry potential in setting up these team fights.
That carry potential is at a very good point right now, my friend. Infinity Edge, Storm Razor, Rapid Fire Cannon along with the Berserker's Greaves. Across on the other side of the river, you've got the Gensu's Rage Blade, you've got the Blade of the Ruin King, still working on that Seal Evolution. But both these AD carries are clearly the ones the games are resting on.
Yep.
The fights are resting on. If a fight starts off and one side loses that AD carry instantly, you have no choice but to retreat.
But on one side, you've got a mid laner trying to provide threat. Hook is on here.
On to Evi, who should be that front liner, but still going to evaporate rather quickly. Throws out the shield to get rid of the explosive charge damage. And
Maybe
KaBuM.
not the ultimate that Zantins was looking for there as he gets headbutted the wall, but it still will mean Baron is started up here. Still have the ultimate, but that is a very... Oh, he's just going to headbutt it. Headbutt it, Evi. You can take it down.
Weaver's Wall trying to keep them away. And they go. The Ornn ulti comes out. Lambster Spike gets thrown down. It's going to be secured by Detonation Focus Me! And KaBuM gets exploded! Over the wall they go. They're looking to clean up all the kills as well. Ranger having to run away. He couldn't secure it with the smite. Now he's going to lose his life. The collapse is here. And KaBuM has been routed.
They certainly have. They've exploded. Another 2 members are going to go down. DFM also pushing the mid lane wave. This is a game back on their terms.
Detonation Focus Me from picks into Baron steals into aces have clawed their way back into this game and are now barreling down the mid lane.
And they are now so far ahead, Flowers. This is going to be like a 6,000 gold swing. They're going to take 2 turrets mid lane. They're going to take net, probably an inhibitor. Top lane turrets are also going to be prepared, as well as a bottom lane turret falling down. The map is just being decimated.
This team has done wonders in this mid-game. We talked about KaBuM being an explosive mid-game team. Detonation Focus Me says, hold my beer.
And it couldn't happen to one of the better, nicer teams. You know, you don't talk about it a lot, but personality of players are important. Yutapon, such a humble guy, has been around with his team for the longest time, 7-2-5, putting on a carry performance. But you got to feel for KaBuM, because when you look at this, you're like, okay, we've got out the flash, he's half health. We've got access to the Baron. They can't get in, they can't steal it. They put down Steel's ultimate to try and deny it. That doesn't work, and it is a straight arrow to the knee that costs them that team fight.
And now, that stray arrow to Baron Nashor's knee means you've got a team Baroned up, pushing down the bottom lane. One of our critiques of KaBuM and ways that they've lost games before is isolated death count being very high. And those isolated deaths in the mid-game are what allowed DetonatioN to stall things out this far. Missed ulti from Yutapon, that's a pretty big team fight tool not available. The name of the game right now for KaBuM, stall this out. Weather this storm. You still have a Tristana. You still have a player that's one hell of a hyper carry. He goes over the wall, he tries to go in. Weaver's wall comes through. It's not going to separate anyone. DetonatioN focus me, fall back and regrow. But here we go. Turret be damned. They're going ham. dyNquedo taken very low. Going to be knocked up into the air like they're taken down here. Riyev can't get back into the Lamb's Respite. He's taken down as well. The push continues. It's 5v3. They're knocking on the door to KaBuM's base. They'll knock that sucker right in. It's inhibitor number 2 under pressure, going to be taken down very simply, very effectively. Minions are already there from the mid lane as well. On to the Nexus turrets they go. It was rough early game, but DetonatioN focused me are wanting to end this one now. Chiton has to jump away, and that means the second Nexus turret is done as well. Nexus under fire. DetonatioN focused me. Hell of a comeback. First victory.
What a way to kick off Worlds 2018 for DetonatioN Focus Me. They fell behind, but this team with Baron is so decisive, and they took everything off the map. One mistake for KaBuM, and the game is over.
What a comeback for the representatives from the LJL. When this game was paused, we were talking about how this is your chance to say, look, we know that Japan hasn't had the performances on the international stage they would like to in the past couple of big events, but that's because they didn't send us. Now you come here with 4 players who have never played on the world stage before as this team that is so dominant in their own region and say, here's why we win all of our games. Here's why we have a 90% win rate in both games and sets in the LJL. DetonatioN focused me, pulled it off.
And they did it in a way that we haven't seen for a long time. You know, this wasn't Evi's Camille split pushing, accessing team fights. This wasn't even a Gnar, you know. This was a full tank Ornn up there in the top lane. This was a little bit more facilitation around Yutapon. This was a little bit more facilitation around Steel, who got shut out of the early game by Ranger. So I think that this adds another string to that DetonatioN Focus Me bow, you know. They can play multiple styles of League of Legends. If you focus one of our players, we are willing to make that adaptation. And I think that that was such a fun game to watch the strengths of both of these teams and both of these regions.
And now KaBuM, 0-2 on the first day. It's what happened at MSI. Problem is, you only got 2 games left to play now instead of 4. They're going to have to make some adjustments before they come back and play again on day number 3.
Yeah, and the problem with that game is that they did everything right at the start of the game.
They were so far ahead.
They were so far ahead. They had the Fed hyper carry. They would have thought that that one was all but done. But unfortunately, you know, you blink once in League of Legends, the game back to even real quickly, and that is exactly what happens.
It's a game of seconds, and it turns out the DetonatioN Focus Me found the right plays at the right times. But for more on how they picked up the win, let's get the breakdown from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Well, thank you so much, and I think you were right there saying how we saw so many kills, it was so explosive, and at the end of the day, DetonatioN Focus Me picks up their first win. We are going to hear from Ceros later on that victory, but I kind of want to say that straight off the bat, it was just kills, 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 kills. I think it was the most active game we've seen so far.
It felt really like the beginning of Worlds in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like so much of Worlds is defined by the big moments, the upsets, and all that stuff. And this game was bloody. There were comebacks. There's, I would argue, an upset. None of us predicted them to win, as well as that crazy Baron steal. So much happened this game.
I agree. So let's dive into one of the replays immediately. 12 minutes in, DetonatioN Focus Me. They take control, Raz, and this is kind of the scrappiness we were talking about and how they've been so dominant in their own region.
Because they have a very defensive composition, what I enjoy. You can see them coming through the jungle itself. Ceros and Steel, the TP just behind that. So while KaBuM wants to dive frequently, this is going to bite them, and it has. Multiple people being able to cut them off, just short-sighted from KaBuM.
And this was a little concerning because I actually really liked the draft that DetonatioN put together for themselves. It's kind of a double marksman comp with a lot of defensive tools while still having a front line. And once these kills kind of started going over to the key members on their team, I thought they were in a really good spot to kind of go forward in the game.
And remember, before this all happens, Kindred is actually getting full denied from Scuttle Crabs entirely. So honestly, Ranger had a really good game up until that point. So the fact that all of those kills now in the pocket of Detonation Focus Me disastrous, and it just kept piling on.
Well, I will say that when we reached that 15-minute mark, it wasn't that bad in terms of gold. But I guess for feeling for KaBuM when you're playing and you see the carries picking up those kills, that's not good. However, as opposed to the first game KaBuM played, they came back in this game until it, of course, turned bad. But I do want to take a look at how they managed to keep a cool head. When they go for the dive, Detonation Focus Me, they managed to turn it around, which was a good resurgence.
Yeah, just a really nice flank and wall here, kind of forcing them down to a certain path. The Kindred ult was used very early on, and so there's no more defensive tools left, despite how many we said Detonation had. They get all these kills, and now it kind of flips right back the other way. Once again, Yutapon able to pick up a number of these kills, and Better game, and it started to feel like they really had control. I think the gold lead got up to around 5K, which is looking really good for them.
And the control wards were being placed well around the Baron side as well. So the fact that Taliyah was able to get the walls down, really holding the enemy team in, I thought that was really job well done, and it was leading up to that Baron point.
It was, and this is where we get to kind of the most important part of the replays and also the MasterCard player of the game. Yutapon, we already thought he was doing well, but the fact that he steals the Baron with Varus really tipped it over the edge for us. Good setup, though, from KaBuM.
Oh, God. This was a nice idea. The Taliyah wall and their DPS is just a little lower than they thought, so they're able to get in range. But the Varus W-Q combo, I'm pretty sure, was what gave him the damage to finish it off, but it got down to like 44, it looked like.
Do you think if KaBuM secures this, they win the game?
Yeah, easy. I do. Even though this game has actually been fairly messy, so you can't just count out the defensive nature of the composition Detonation Focus Me had, but they've been playing towards that the entire time. They can just go for a 1-3-1. That's what I would have liked. But the fact that goes completely over, and remember, we've been hyping up the Karma train, Ardent Sensor, Athene's Unholy Grail with 280 carries by her side. All she needed was that timing, waves to be rolling through, and I think they were able to get that.
Beautiful moment for Yutapon. He was probably like, yeah, guys, I just did that. And they finished the game so cleanly off that. Now let's look at what the group looks like after a couple of games we've seen. I do want to call up a tweet by VODS, and I gotta be honest.
All right, let's go. What is he saying?
I wanted to kind of call him out, but he may be right. Detonation Focus Me will get out of this group. Save this tweet.
What's funny is you were trying to flip-flop off camera about your prediction because you said KaBuM and then wanted to go back.
No. Yeah, wait. Okay, so
wait a second.
I had KaBuM, and then I have it on I chatted with my producer and I said I want to change it to Detonation Focus Me, and then I flip-flopped on air. I don't know. This is impossible to predict. I just know that Detonation Focus Me looks strong.
And I'll say this, feel-good moment for VODS, by the way. For years, every IWCI versus playing tournament.
Japan.
I know a guy watches a lot of anime. But we finally get down to it. Real analytical point coming through. He has faith that Detonation Focus Me comes through. That being said, we need to see something at a day 2.
Yeah, I agree. And
I was going to say the same thing. Just like this isn't, they're not out of the woods yet because this game was on a knife's edge and they could very easily have lost this game. So they need to make sure they clean things up a little bit to actually make it out of the game.
I agree. And also, of course, for KaBuM, they now start 0-2. This is a team that's going to have to fight to come back in the next couple of days. So that means this group is going to become super interesting. It is already. I've been talking a lot. I literally need a breather. So let's take a break. When we return, it'll be G-Rex versus Chaos Latin Gamers. You won't want to miss it.